Hello, welcome to AHEF Indonesia 2020 Goes Online. This is an institution's webinar series. My name is Ogi. I am going to be moderating this webinar. This webinar is going to be presented by Grady from University of Glasgow. Please stay tuned until the end of the webinar because we will hold a Q&A session. If you have any questions about the presentation or anything related to the country's higher education, you can submit your questions in YouTube's comment sections anytime throughout the presentations. And now, please welcome Grady from University of Glasgow. You're still muting. Unmute, please, Grady. Okay.
Sorry about that. I was saying hello and welcome, and thank you for the presentation and the introduction. I'll start by sharing my screen with everyone. Let me just... Yeah, can you see it now?
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
Right, thank you. Well, yes, my name is Greta Ivana, and that's my email address. So if there are questions, not only at the end of this webinar, but also in the coming weeks and months, or you're thinking about applying to the MSc in Digital Society at the University of Glasgow, then please feel free to contact me at any time, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. Right, so I'll start by saying a few things about myself, and then I'll move on to discussing about something about the University of Glasgow and the master's program, which we're offering in Digital Society. And afterwards, I'd also suggest that we look at a substantive topic just to give you a sense of how we would approach issues related to digitalization within this master's program, and to give you a clearer perspective of the types of approaches and conversations that we would have within the Digital Society MSc. Right, so I'm a lecturer in sociology, and I am the convener of the Digital Society postgraduate program at the University of Glasgow. So this is the capacity in which I'm talking to you today. And before going into a deeper conversation about the university and the master's program, I'd invite you to reflect on how the world has changed and is continuously changing through the advancement of digital technologies. So many aspects of our lives have been reshaped, and that was true in the past 2 or 3 decades. It has become even more important in the last few years, where digital technologies have become more and more embedded in most of our everyday activities, in large scale affairs, but also in our daily lives, in our relations with others, and of course in our work. Now with the conditions of the COVID pandemic, that reliance upon digital means to assist us in continuing our activities has increased even further. And it's just a further testament of how important it is that we acknowledge the changes that are happening, and we try to understand them as best we can. And the University of Glasgow is very aware of these changes and wishes to respond to the societal challenges which are derived and prompted by this transformation. And one of the ways in which it wishes to do that is through the Digital Society MSc. The University of Glasgow is, for those of you who are not aware, is one of the most prestigious universities in Scotland. And it's been a long-term presence in the top 100 best universities worldwide. Um, Actually, this morning we received the news that Times Higher Education has named the University of Glasgow as the University of the Year in the UK, and we're very proud and very happy to receive that news because, as you know, the competition is very strong, and the UK has exceptionally well established and prestigious universities. So to receive this title, it's very, very honoring for us. The University of Glasgow is also one of the oldest universities in the English-speaking world. It was founded in the 15th century. But besides this very long-standing tradition, our ambition is to combine that tradition and to combine that history with innovative world-class education and scholarship, and especially to focus on subjects which are important to link or to give continuity and to take that tradition forward, but also issues of contemporary relevance. The university now functions or is organized in four main colleges. The College of Arts, the College of Medical and Veterinary and Life Sciences, the College of Engineering, and the College of Social Sciences. The program of Digital Society is part of the College of Social Sciences. And this is what I'd like to be focusing on. Right, so as I mentioned in the first few sentences, to respond to the challenges of today's world, the University of Glasgow wants to promote this type of cutting edge curriculum, wants to look at innovation, wants to make sure that our students are well equipped to handle the challenges of the ever transforming world. We want to give you the skills that will make you competitive within a labor market, but we also want you to think critically and to ask the right types of questions, and to challenge or to interrogate some of the status quo and some of the things that are happening around us, because that's an important part, we feel, of your education, that you come out with this critical thinking, but also with the practical skills. And this is precisely what the Digital Society MSc program is trying to achieve. In order to do that, what we're setting out is to introduce you to the examination of how digital technologies are part of our lives. And in this sense, we will look at different substantive issues, like how digitalization is linked with the self. I'm sure you can all think about some apps which are allowing you to monitor some of your daily activities. You can also think about the ways in which you present yourselves in social media. You can also think about how your profile is sort of compiled and put together using digital technologies by marketing companies or maybe by public institutions. You can also think of yourself in terms of health and how your health profile is constructed and stored digitally. So the entire definition of the self and what the self is becoming reshaped through digitalization. Then we will look at social relations, which of course are also changing so deeply. because of digital affordances and how they're becoming part of our lives. Um, for instance, of course, the easiest example that comes to mind is right now during the pandemic, when so much of our social interactions, of our bonding with other people, of our networks, are just relying on digital communication to to be maintained or to be evolved or even to be established. So social relations are strongly shaped by digitalization, and even outside of the context of the pandemic, because mobility is also an important part of our lives because of living in a globalized world where we don't always spend time in the co-present in the same physical space. Our relations are moving more and more online. And of course, that also has consequences. Those relations are maintained or are formed or they are developed, or even conflicts may occur or relationships may end um, with the help of digital technology. But there is also an impact. We need to see that those relations have a certain continuity, but they also have they're also reshaped by the fact that we are not in the same space. The experience that we have of talking to other people, of seeing other people, is very much changed by the fact that we're seeing them through a screen and we're talking to them through a microphone. We have to acknowledge that and to question what that does to our relations, how the social fabric of these relationships changes. Then we can also look at the topic of work. I'm sure many of you are aware of the current conversations about how work conditions are changing, but also how jobs are changing, how it is expected that certain sectors of the working life will be very strongly transformed in future years because of the advancement of technology, because of the advancement of robotics. Of course, you will have seen those alarmist headlines saying that robots are taking our jobs. So we might ask ourselves, is there any truth to that? And in which ways is the work that we're doing and the job market and the everyday activities included in a work environment reshaped by digitalization? Is it what's being lost, what's being gained, and what are the consequences of this reshaping? The same can be said about the broader economy. Digitalization is, of course, a huge part of financial markets and markets of any kind. One thing that comes to mind is a work done by a colleague of mine on fisheries and on how rural agriculture is also being reshaped by digitalization and by emerging technologies, just in order for small producers to keep up with the speed of the markets, with the demands of the markets. So again, in the economy, that's very present as well. We can look at health, security, and a variety of other areas of social reality where digitalization is having a strong impact. So this is what we plan to do throughout the course of the Digital Society MSc. Then we'd also like to familiarize you with current debates informed by sociological theory and by methodology, because when we ask ourselves this question about what happens with social relations, what happens to work, what happens to the economy, we want to do so in a way that's very grounded in existing debates. We want to have a sound theoretical knowledge on which these conversations are built. And we also look at methodology because research needs to have a certain accuracy, a certain reliability, which can only be achieved through a systematic methodology. we will also encourage interdisciplinary approaches and just emphasize the importance of you grasping the deepening influence of digital technologies on society in general. Right, so this is a one-year taught postgraduate program. It can be taken full-time or part-time. There will be an understanding, an emphasis on sociological understanding of digital technologies. So while I mentioned that we will have interdisciplinary inputs, it's the sociological questions and the sociological perspectives that are very much at the center of what we do. There will be a mix of theoretical and methodological knowledge, which I already said a few words about in the previous slides. Maybe I'll just add here that this methodological knowledge is important on the one hand for you to get a systematic insight into digitalization, but also to learn to work with methods which are relying on data which is gathered digitally. So that will include looking at how we might make sense of big data, but also how we might work with, for instance, with social media analysis in a qualitative way. How would we engage with digital ethnographies? So these are just some of the areas that will be covered in the methodological trainings. And again, what we really want to emphasize is the mix of critical thinking and the practical skills. And in order to do that, we're also proposing a living lab, which is actually an opportunity for you to go outside of the classroom, to get immersed into the social realities around us, where digitalization is a strong component. And those are not hard to find because digitalization is becoming a strong component in most parts of our lives. So then you will get a chance to put that critical thinking and those practical skills to good use within the Living Lab. We're also offering 2 full tuition waiver scholarships, and this is supported by the University of Glasgow. And again, it shows the commitment of the university to encourage us to think about the ways in which society is transforming, and to take up the most current and forward-thinking challenges in our work as scholars, as teachers, but also as students and as future makers. When graduating from the Digital Society MSc, we would expect that you already have a certain knowledge and certain expertise that would allow you to inform policy debates around digital transformation, around some of the benefits, around some of the risks and challenges, because there is, of course, in some areas of society, there is also an enchantment with digital technologies and a tendency to adopt it uncritically. And this is where your type of knowledge would allow you to step in and to inform policy debates, where you also acknowledge the challenges and you also recognize the dangers of maybe adopting a certain technology too soon, or not being fully aware of what it entails. You may also work in non-technical project management in the IT sector, but also in other industries. Again, public administration, commerce, tourism, since these are areas where the reliance on digital tools has become so strong, the type of expertise and knowledge that you would bring would be very valued. In NGOs and community building, especially when there is an element of technological mediation, and of course, community building these days must have that element of technological mediation. Digital marketing and advertising are areas where you'd be well placed to work after graduating from this program, and digital media offices. Right. Having said that, I'd like us to move to one more substantive topic, just to give you a sense of how the conversations would go within the program and the types of questions that we'd ask. And what I'm proposing that we look at is predictive algorithms. An important way in which digital technologies are embedded in our lives is through algorithms, as I'm sure you've noticed. And algorithms and machine learning, AI, are already, not everyone, but everywhere around us. You can think of self-driving cars, which are maybe not very common, but are clearly a direction in which society is moving. So then we can look at ethics or responsibility with self-driving driving cars. How do they learn to avoid obstacles? What if one fails and injures someone? Where does responsibility lay? And what is the role of the algorithm there? Is it people who built it? Is there also a reliance on the driver? Is the responsibility shared between the algorithm and the driver? And how can we ethically assess that responsibility of the algorithm? These are just some questions which can be raised in that context. Facial recognition. This is already a lot more common and currently occurring than the self-driving cars. Criminal risk prediction. Can we use algorithms to predict when, for instance, when the next terrorist attack will happen and where it would happen, and what are the neighborhoods which are most exposed, and so on and so forth. Marketing and consumption is another area that's highly reliant on predictive algorithms to look at future sales, to look at the success of certain campaigns or certain product launches. Again, we would rely on algorithms. Self-monitoring devices. If you go out, you might have that application on your phone that tells you how many steps you've walked today, and you check that, and that's a way for you to self-monitor. So this is the type of thing that we have in mind when we talk about self-monitoring devices. Social media, of course, is part of that as well. So then, how can we study algorithms from a social science perspective? What kind of questions can we ask? And what kind of insight could the social scientist bring into these topics? Because these are areas of life that we commonly expect that data scientists can contribute to, or engineers, or statisticians and mathematicians can say something relevant. What about social scientists? What could we contribute to these? This is just an illustration of how present algorithms are in most aspects of human activities. So just to continue on that note about what social scientists can do, I'd like us to ask ourselves, besides technological advancements, which is enabling the development of these of machine learning and of AI, what do we as a society? Why do we as a society go in this direction? Why do we want algorithms? That's an interest, or why do we want this type of technological advancement? Why have we ended up with machine learning and with AI? Why is this a direction for us? Is it to reduce uncertainty about the future? To improve social order? To eliminate human judgment and to make sure that we bring calculation and objectivity into what we do? Is it efficiency? And then if either or all of these are part of our ideals and of our reasoning about why we have come to rely on machine learning and on AI, then how did we as society develop these ideals? And why, for instance, do we think that it's better to, or it's more desirable to be objective than to be subjective? Why is it that we value calculation over human judgment? Or why do we need this increased predictability and reduced risk? These are very sociological questions to ask around AI, and they're key to understanding what's why and how algorithms come to life. And of course, we don't necessarily have to look at this in terms of causes. We can also look at it in terms of consequences. How does the fact that we find ourselves in this position and that we do work with machine learning today and that we are relying on AI, how does that change our societies? How does that affect where we are and what we do? For instance, think about the COVID pandemic. How would it be different, and how would the policy measures and the confinement measures have changed if there was no AI and if there was no reliance on predictive algorithms in our thinking? That's just to show how this effect is very strong and very palpable, and it is reshaping our lives. So one idea I'd like to leave you with is that digitalization is not only technological, but it's equally social. And just as a last slide, to highlight how sociology can contribute. For instance, there are different approaches, according to Lee and Björklund Larsen, about how we can study predictive algorithms sociologically. We can look at the politics of algorithms. I'm sure you've heard of conversations around the biases that are built into algorithms, about how algorithms can be racist. And this is an element of politics of algorithms. We're looking at what's actually built inside them and how the algorithms themselves work and what type of knowledge they produce. We can also look not within the algorithm, but we can also look at the algorithm as a finished artifact, and then just look at how it gets adopted and what people do with it and how it becomes part of an organization, for instance. Or we can look at relations. How does the knowledge produced by the algorithm come together with the knowledge and the practices of people who use it, and what's the finished product there? We can also look at lives around algorithms. How do people's lives change because or by virtue of the fact that algorithms are maybe profiling them? How does one's life change if they're seen as being at high risk of becoming a criminal? So this is a more durable perspective than just looking at practice or at the relation between the knowledge of the algorithm and the person using it. This is more of a longitudinal approach. And these are some ways in which we can think of algorithms sociologically, and it's also an illustration of how we can think of digital change from a social science perspective. And with that, I want to thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Grady, for your presentations. Now maybe we will begin the Q&A session. And first question is, I'm planning to apply one of the Erasmus Master's major, and UFG is the coordinating uni. Should I write my CV in the UK format or the Europass one, since the consortium consists mainly in European uni except for UFG? Thank you.
In these cases, what I would recommend is that you focus on the type of requirements that are asked of you for your scholarship or for your funder, because this is where it's usually stricter. For your master's application, there is no such strict rules, so we'd be happy to receive it in the same format that the funder wants it.
Okay, so no specific format, UK or Europass is fine, right?
Yes, from the perspective of the master's program. From the perspective of the funder, it can be different.
Okay, thank you very much for the answer. The next question is there any fully funded scholarship in U of G, exclude or but Erasmus Mundus? Because she's applied for local program through U of G before.
Yes, within our program, we have two full scholarships, and these will be awarded competitively. So you can find the information about the scholarships on the website. So if you just Google Digital Society Glasgow, that will take you to the website of the program. And within there, you can find information about the two scholarships which are specific to this program. So if it's only if you apply to this program that you can be considered for the scholarships. And there you also find the criteria by which you are eligible and by which you might be able to be awarded one of these two full scholarships. On the same page, you will also find other funding opportunities within the University of Glasgow. And those are not only related to this MSc program, but they're more general for people who are applying to study a postgraduate program in Glasgow. And there again, for each of them, you will find the criteria on the website.
Okay, thank you for the answer. We move to the next questions. Does this program, MSc Digital Society, also talk about big data, Python, R, or data science related? Thank you.
It does, but again, it does so mostly from a social science perspective. So our approach is that we want our students to be familiar with big data, to understand how it is produced, and then to understand maybe how to work with it to a certain extent, and how to analyze it from a social science perspective. This means that we will have a mix of looking at big data and looking at more in-depth and qualitative data. And it's according to the students' needs and wishes, that if, for instance, at the end of the year, you will have a dissertation or a practical project. If you're interested in working with big data or practicing that more before you go into the labor market, this is an opportunity for you to start working or to choose research design to work with big data in that project. If, on the other hand, you don't really want to go into that area and you want to focus on more qualitative approaches, and you want to do a digital ethnography, for instance, or you want to work with visual analysis of photographic material, then you can choose a project to match that interest. So we really encourage this sort of open and independent approach for students to choose their own interests.
Okay, thank you for the answer. We move to the next questions. Is there any application fee for prospective students who want to pursue their master programs in UFG? And the second question is the living cost in Glasgow more affordable than the other cities in Scotland? Thank you.
The living cost, I'll start with the second one. The living cost, it depends of the other terms of the comparison. The living cost in Glasgow is lower than in Edinburgh. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's lower than Stirling or Aberdeen, but it wouldn't be higher either. So I would say that it's mostly on equal terms, except for Edinburgh, which is higher. And the other question was about a fee. No, there is no fee as far as I know. You might want to check the website, but I don't think there's a fee for applying now.
Okay, so still we're back to the living cost. How much the average living cost in the University of Glasgow?
But it's it's very difficult to give a number because it depends very much on the lifestyle of each person. So yeah, you would have to. I'm sure you can find information online about rent and about the cost of different items that or different activities that you're interested in having as part of your life, and then you can calculate that. So there is quite a lot of variation depending on the lifestyle.
Okay, thank you. We move to the next questions is how about the minimum score of TOEFL or IELTS and the minimum GPA to enter the University of Glasgow, specifically for maybe the undergraduate, master, and PhD?
Yes, again, this information is on the website. But what I would say about the minimum scores is that um, there is a certain flexibility there, and that flexibility is given by one's profile. So if your score is maybe slightly lower than the threshold, but at the same time you have a very good background in the social sciences, and you have already have an undergraduate where you have looked particularly at technological transformation of social life, then you're a very suitable candidate. And if, for instance, that score is has been affected by a discipline which is where you haven't done so well, but that's not extremely central or relevant for studying in this program, then we can overlook that, and you might be able to get in.
Okay, the next question is what is the most favorite courses in University of Glasgow right now?
Can you please repeat that?
What is the most favorite course in University in Glasgow right now?
um, well, it's a very broad question because we offer a huge array of courses right now across the university, so I wouldn't be able to tell you.
Okay, okay, thank you. So the next, maybe the last question is, how about the teaching method that University of Glasgow employ for right now during the pandemics? Um,
What we are currently doing is we're working entirely uh, at a distance, so teaching is done online and remotely uh, this semester and the next semester. For next year, of course, there are still questions around how the pandemic is going to evolve and whether the vaccine will be widely available, and that will affect what we do. But our approach has been that if we are studying or if our teaching and learning is happening mostly online, then what we do is a mix of recordings and live sessions. The recording students are finding very useful because that gives them flexibility to attend different courses, or at the same time if they want to take a part-time job. So there's a flexibility in schedule. Even those who are not working have appreciated them because they can always go back to what the lecturer has said and check the information again, and it helps with the studying. But those are relatively limited in time because we know it's difficult to keep the focus on one person speaking for so long. And then the other the other part of it is live seminars and live tutorials, which with small groups, with breakout rooms, to make sure that students also get a sense of community and that they also get this interactive teaching and learning that's similar to studying in a classroom. But having said that, we hope to be able to go back to the physical classroom as soon as possible. And next year, in the first semester, if possible, or if it's blended in the first semester, then hopefully it's face to face entirely in the second semester at least.
Okay, thank you. That's the end of our Q&A session,
Thank
Grady.
you.
So just reminder, you can connect with Miss Grady through the information given by Miss Grady before. So I have an announcement that for all of you who watch the webinar session today, there will be a virtual fair today and tomorrow. You can consult directly with the university representative and ask further about your study plans. Please access it via event.ehf.id. Okay, thank you and see you in our next sessions. Bye bye. Thank you, Grady.